Hello, this is the story of the great Stan Bolovan. Now, Stan Bolovan was an ordinary sort of a bloke. Lived in a nice little ordinary sort of cottage with a couple of fields in an ordinary sort of way. Had an ordinary little wife whom he loved very much, but life was pretty good. Except for one thing. Whenever Stan came home unexpected and walked into the house, his wife was sobbing her heart out. Well, Stan begged and begged her. "Tell me, what is it? What's so awful? Perhaps we can fix it." She wouldn't tell him. "If I tell you, you'll only be sad as well," she said. "Well, I don't know," said Stan. "A trouble shared is a trouble halved, they say. I suppose it could be a trouble doubled. But we said for better or for worse. Come on, share it with me." And so she did. The reason she was so upset was that they didn't have any children. Then Stan was upset. And after Stan and his missus had been upset for quite some time, Stan said, "Here, it's about time we did something about this." "What can we do?" said his missus. "I'll go and see the magician up the hill," says Stan. So Stan's off up the hill and finds the magician, who lives in a cave up near the top of the mountain. And Stan tells him they're in this state because they can't have any children. Can he fix it so they can have some children, please? And the magician says, "Oh, you want to be careful. Sometimes when you get what you wish for, you wish you hadn't had it." Stan said, "Well, better to be upset for something you got than something you haven't got, though, isn't it?" "All right," said the magician. Walked back into his cave, left Stan standing. So he went back down the hill, and he's getting near the house, and he hears all this noise and rumpus and laughter, and then through it all he hears his wife's laugh. And Stan hurries round the corner, and there are children. There are children everywhere. Some of them look like Stan, some of them look like his wife. There was 101 of them. His wife was ever so happy. Stan was quite happy too at first, but then they realised that she baked up every bit of flour in the house. She made apple pies with every apple in the orchard. They didn't have anything left. The only thing left was a little bit, no, maybe even smaller than that, a little bit of curd cheese. Stan says, "I'll have to go off out and find some food." And his wife says, "Here, do you take this?" No, says Dan, "that's for the..." "Look, there's one little bit of curd cheese. It won't go anywhere with 100 children. You're their hope. You take it." So Stan put the bit of cheese in his pocket and set off. gone quite a little way, and he came to some down-like hills, and as he came over the top of the hill, he saw a great big sheepfold just underneath him, all made up out of dry stone, carefully put together, and a shepherd going round making sure everything was all right. And he thought to himself, a lamb would do. He didn't like doing wrong things. He didn't want to steal. On the other hand, you've got to feed children. Sam settled down and waited for it to get dark, see what he could see. And just as it began to get dark, there was a flash in the eastern sky, and then another one, and then a huge dragon showed up to the east and came and landed in front of the sheepfold, and it walked over and it grabbed a couple of the panicking sheep in each of its two claws, and it took off, and it had broken down the wall, and the sheep were all out and panicking everywhere, and the poor shepherd was himself in pretty much of a panic, but trying to get them back in again. So Stan's there. Right, I'll give you a hand. Stan goes down the mountain, starts helping herd the sheep back in, helps him rebuild the wall. Everything's calmed down a bit. Shepherd says, God, thanks a lot, mate. Thanks ever so. That dragon's going to ruin me. I've had... That's the third time it's come this week. And it takes 4 sheep every time. Said Stan. What would you give me if I get rid of the dragon? What would I give you? I'm a shepherd. Sheep's what I've got. I'll give you a couple of good rams, every other barren ewe, and every third ewe and lambs that I've got. Sam looked at the great big sheepfold and did a quick eye. Sounds good to me, he said. Let's see what happens tomorrow night. So they sat down and they had a little fire and they had a little food, and they took the sheep out the next morning and grazed them, and they brought them back in the early evening and put them in the fold, and they waited, and sure enough there was a flicker in the east, and then another. And then a dragon landed, and it started to walk towards the fold. And Stan stood up in front of it and said, Oi, you! Hold it right there! Huh? Said the dragon. What, me? Wasn't used to people talking to him like that. Yes, you! Who do you think you are? Said the dragon. Me? I'm the great Stan Bolovan. I own these sheep. You frightened my poor shepherd to pieces, and you've taken 12 sheep so far, I've heard. Well, yeah, I suppose, said the dragon. That's what dragons do. Not round my sheep, says Stan. Anyway, who's the great Stan Bolovan? I've never heard of you. You've never heard of me? Huh! I can fight 10 men with one hand tied behind my back. I'm stronger than all of them. And he stood with his arms slightly akimbo and thrust them into his pockets. And in the bottom of his pocket he felt the piece of curd cheese, and he was struck with a sudden idea. He palmed the cheese, took his hand out of his pocket, bent down and pretended to pick up one of the stones from the ground. "Watch this then," he said, holding out the piece of curd cheese, and he squeezed it in his hand, and the whey ran out. "Can you squeeze water from a stone?" said Stan. Well, I don't think I can," said the dragon. All right, I'll just be off and... You stay right there. You've been stealing my sheep. You owe me. And you owe my poor shepherd for frightening him to pieces. Go on. You're going to have to pay up. I know about dragons. Bet you got gold. I've got a bag of gold at home, said the dragon. Right, come on, let's go get it, said Stan. And he walked over to the dragon and he put his foot on the dragon's foot and he jumped up on it. What are you doing? Said the dragon. You're going to have to give me a ride. I can't fly. Can do a lot of things, but I can't fly. Now then. And he sat with his feet astride the dragon's neck. His legs astride the dragon's neck, I'm sorry. His feet were somewhere down near his ears. And off they took. And when they got to the dragon's house, the dragon landed a little way from the house and said, Look, if it's all the same with you, I don't mind. I live with my mother. Yeah, says Stan. Well, she's a bit old and a bit crotchety and a bit funny. It's probably better if I go in first and tell her that you're coming. Don't want to upset an old lady, said Stan. All right. And off the dragon went. And he got indoors. And he said, I got this terrible person outside. He made me bring him back. He's stronger than 10 men. I've seen him squeeze water out of a stone. He's that strong. And I've got to give him some gold to make him go away. You're not going giving our gold away, said his mum. Go, you bringing him in here. We'll have a look at him. So they brought Stan in. And the dragon's mum says, Well, a bit of a journey. I expect you'd like something to eat. Oh, I wouldn't mind, says Stan. So they all have a good hearty meal, and then the dragon says, It's getting on a bit, you know. Would you like to stop the night? We've got a nice spare room. Oh, all right then, says Stan. And they take him up to the spare room. Well, no sooner has the dragon seen Stan into bed than Stan can hear him off downstairs. So Stan jumps out of bed, crawls under the bed and sticks his ear to the floor. And sure enough, he can hear what's going on in the living room downstairs. And the dragon's mother says, Right, we'll keep quiet for a bit, and we'll wait until we're quite sure he's fast asleep. And then you take your granddaddy's club and you go upstairs and you catch him while he's asleep. Fair idea, said the dragon. And they sat down. Well, Stan knew they was going to stay in the living room because they didn't want to disturb him. So he tiptoes down the stairs and out into the yard, and he gets the pig trough. And he brings it back upstairs with him, and he tucks it into the bed so that it looks just like him. And then he lies down under the bed and gradually starts snoring. And after a while the dragons have heard the snoring and they are sure he's asleep. So the dragon takes his club and he creeps upstairs and he creeps into the room and he brings the club down smack on what he thinks is Stan. And Stan under the bed goes and stops making a noise. And he hears the dragon go downstairs to his mum and say, "That's it, I got him good. We go to bed now. I'll clear him out in the morning." "All right," she said, and Stan hears the two dragons go off up to bed. As soon as he can hear dragons snoring, Stan creeps back downstairs with the somewhat damaged pig trough, straightens it up as best he can and puts it back where it belongs. Pigs will get the blame. Creeps back upstairs, gets into bed and has a fairly good night. In the morning he walks downstairs and there's the dragon and his mother having their marmalade and toast first thing in the morning, and Stan walks in. Did you have a good night?" says the dragon. "Oh, not bad," said Stan, "but have you got rats? I'm sure something ran over me last night when I was asleep. Still, but only that." The dragon and his mother were like, "Whoa." So, said the dragon, "I've got your bag of gold here." "Oh," says Stan, "but I've wasted an awful lot of time here. Do you think... I'll tell you what, I'll give you 2 bags, said the dragon. "Oh, that's better," said Stan. "Mind you, I've now got not a lot to do at the moment. Maybe I'll stop on another night." No, says the dragon's mother. Look, here's another bag, 3 bags of gold. You go home, okay?" "All right," says Stan. And the dragon takes him up on his back with his 3 bags of gold. And they get close to Stan's house. And they're walking up the road to Stan's house, and Stan's children see him coming. And they rush up the road towards him, going, "Dad! Dad, Dad, what have you got to eat? We'll eat dragon. Ooh. There's 50 little Stan Bolovans coming up the road. The dragon took off, disappeared. Stan dropped off the gold at home, sent a couple of the older boys down the village to buy some bread and keep them going, gave them a gold piece, established some good credit at the grocer's, and then went off and found the shepherd and collected his sheep, brought them home and put them in his little field. And he and his pretty little wife lived very happily for a very long time. And their 101 children did all sorts of things. There we go, a traditional story. Actually, the other day I found the original source I got that story from. Over the years of telling it, I have changed it no end. It's amazing. Of course, you change it a little bit every time you tell it, but it seems that one I really changed. Have a pleasant day, and do have a look through all the other videos and see if there's anything you like. Bye bye.